Good morning, guys. As usual, I'm out in the garden early morning. It's the nicest time to be out here. Air's fresh and the morning sun's not too hot yet. Got the sounds of the birds in the background. So I'd like to give you a little garden update and also ask a question. What is wrong with our Red Congo? So I'll show you the Philodendron Red Congo, what's going on with it, and any of you who have an idea what possibly is causing this, please comment down below. So here's our Red Congo. It used to be inside the house, but we moved it out a few months ago to out here, and it's produced 2 new leaves since we brought it outside. So 2 latest ones were this one and this one that's just opened up, but they're coming out kind of a little bit crinkly at the bottom here, and they've got this pattern on the leaf, which it didn't used to have on the older ones that it grew when it was inside of the house. But what happened inside was it was starting to kind of grow deformed leaves. So a couple of them came out a little bit deformed, like this one here. So I thought maybe it was lack of humidity. So we brought it outside, we planted it here. It's growing, it's not dropping leaves. It's doing okay. But I just wonder what this pattern is on the leaves. So I don't know if it's some kind of vitamin or mineral deficiency. I don't know. But the leaves come out like this already with this pattern on. Now, as the leaf ages, they fade a little bit. So you can see on this one here, it had the same thing. This was the newest leaf actually that came out after we moved it outside. So it does fade. But obviously it's not a good sign. There's obviously the plant's telling me something. So if any of you have any idea what causes this on the plants, let me know, because I also have it happening on another plant, our Dark Lord over here. So this also had a similar patterning on the new leaves. Now I do have other philodendrons planted out here, which are doing fine. So I'm not sure why that is. You know, you just go to the side here, we've got the black cardinal. These leaves are coming out with no problems at all, and they're basically in the same mix in the same area of the garden. So I don't think it's down to light. There's obviously something causing this. Anyway, if you've got any ideas, comment down below, and let's continue on with a little update of our garden. So yeah, we've got our black cardinal and Prince of Orange here. This Prince of Orange was also inside for quite a long time, but it just wasn't happy. We moved it out here several months ago, and you see it's producing leaves, but they are smaller than usual. And this one came out with a kind of patterning to it, like a variegation to it, although none of the other leaves have that. Anyway, this is the newest leaf. It doesn't have the patterning on like that Red Congo, so it's obviously healthier, but the leaves are not upsizing. But that's probably because it's been transplanted and was disturbed quite a bit. We've also got here our Olympiad, which isn't growing any new leaves lately, but it's not dropping leaves, so I assume that it's doing okay. So I had some problems on the living wall here. A lot of the ferns are dying off. I'm not sure why. Some of them seem to be doing okay. The others are dying off like this. I think maybe they're too compact in these little pockets. Not really sure, but I'm going to do some work on the wall anyway. Replace some of these plants that haven't survived. But we've got a lot of plants on here that are doing well. So our melanochrysum here had a problem. It made this leaf and it was kind of stunted, not healthy looking. But then I cleared some of these ferns that were around it, and it's shot up and made this new leaf. So I think it just wasn't getting enough sun. So that just goes to show that even though they don't like too much sun, they obviously do need some bright light at some point of the day in order to, I guess, you know, photosynthesize and still produce leaves, because this one was very stunted just because it was very crowded around here with a lot of ferns. So I cut them back just to give it some space. You see, this is one of the ones that got cut there. And then it's been growing okay. So that's just a little tip there for the melanochrysum. I've got a few cuttings from the melano as well, down here. So this one's just grown a little shoot. We'll see how that goes. This one's got one coming, and this has got a little bud coming out there. So I guess these are going to grow something. So we've got a few melanochrysums propagated down there. This here is called Persian Shield. I really like the color of the leaves, this purple color. It adds a splash of color to the wall. And I noticed that they get flowers. I didn't know that. So this one's starting to flower now. So that's quite nice. Our anthuriums like it on this wall here. We've got our queen anthurium up there. We've got a vichii here, up there, which just made that new leaf on the right a few weeks ago. This queen anthurium leaf is probably a month old now. So they do like it here, higher up on the wall there, because they get some sun late afternoon. But it's also very cool and shady along here for most of the day, so that does them well. Here's one of my favorite begonias. Has this purpley color to the leaves. Again, it's lost some of its color because it's a little shady along here. It used to be kind of a bit brighter purple, but because of the shade around here, I think that it's lost some of its coloration. But I've cleared again some plants around it so that it has some more light, and hopefully it will flourish a little bit more and bring that purple coloration back to the leaves. So I also have growing on here an El Choco Red. I find these to be very slow growers. I've got a couple of them. I've got another one in the ground, and I've got this one on the wall. And I just don't know why, but they're very slow growers. I'd be surprised if I get one leaf every 3 months. They're very slow. I don't know if other people have found the same thing. There's a new leaf coming out. I just don't know why. I've got other philodendrons growing in the ground near my other El Choco, and they're growing fine, but this just seems to be very slow. But I still love it. I love the coloration to the back of the leaves. When they come out, it's even brighter. So I really do like that. I'll probably cut this leaf and give that new one some space to come out. So what else have we got growing on the wall here? We've got a Jose Bueno, variegated Jose Bueno, which is climbing up there nicely. Got this beautiful large leaves on this Alocasia Black Velvet. So I do like these a lot. It might be a little wet here for it, not sure. It seems to be growing though. The Alocasias do appear to like it a little wetter than others, but maybe it's too wet. Because it's right next to this sprinkler head here. So it could be getting a little too wet. It's a little slimy around there. So I'm not sure. I may have to adjust that sprinkler, possibly. So the living walls, the biggest issue I've had with them is irrigation, you know, giving them the right amount of water, especially when you've got a mix of plants like this, because I've got plants on here that like water and plants that don't, so it's kind of tricky. But overall, it's doing okay. Our Atabapensi here, I took a cutting from it, which is growing at the back, and now it's got a shoot starting to come out there. So I'm happy about that. It took it a long time. I thought that maybe this Atabapensi was just going to stop growing after I cut it, but it does have a little bud coming out. So, and also the cutting that we took is growing as well. So that's one thing that we always try and do with our plants, is take a cutting. One, it can encourage new growth and more vigor to the plant, but also as well, you've got a backup plant then just in case something goes wrong. So, as I say, the anthuriums really like it here. This is a new anthurium leaf, although my forgetiae white stripe is not doing so well here, but it was recently repotted, so that could be why. So that's our kind of living wall here at the side of the house. Let's go and take a look how other things are doing around here. So we've added recently some more plants at the back here. We added this fern. So it's we already have this tree fern here, but we added this fern in the ground. So this will not grow as a tree fern. This will stay low. It's kind of like a giant fern. It will fill up this space. Eventually that post won't be there once this rubber tree grows. So we'll have this fern in the shade around the bottom of the rubber tree there. So that's doing well. This philodendron here, I had to add another pole because it had outgrown the pole it was on. And it's really thriving. It just keeps on producing more and more new leaves, which is great. It is a little windy down the side here, which does beat up some of our heliconias and birds of paradise and makes them look a little raggedy. But I don't remember it being this windy around here last year, but I'm not really sure why. It seems to be windier this year. So maybe it's just a seasonal thing. We've added also some new orchids on the back wall there, hanging up there just to add a splash of colour at the back. So those are Vanda orchids. They have thin pencil leaves, so they can tolerate a little bit more sun. So the orchids that have a kind of broader leaves, like say this orchid here, doesn't like quite as much sun as the ones with the thin pencil leaves. So the bigger the leaves on the orchids, the less sun they like, apparently. So although this has got some sun now, it's only for a short period of time, and it's still only 8 o'clock, so the sun is not that hot yet. And you can see these orchids are quite happy here, because this one is even blooming again just after the other blooms had finished. So quite happy with the way the orchids are growing here on the fern tree. So what else have we got around here? We've got our Philodendron mamii down here, which we took a cutting from, and since the cutting it's had a shoot. So you see there, that was the shoot. That's the newest leaf. It got a little damaged in the wind, but there's also another shoot coming off down here, but it's dried up now, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. Kind of a little disappointing. So that's doing well there. Moving over to our other living wall, we recently had a new Vichii leaf open up, so you can see up there, that's our latest Vichii leaf. Upsized from the last one, so it's obviously doing quite well. It's quite happy with its environment there. It gets a little bit of sun, maybe for about 45 minutes to an hour at around 10 a.m. And then it's kind of in this shade for the rest of the day. So that's doing well. Our Paraiso Verde also starting to climb there and producing new leaves. So obviously they do get a little leggy when they're on the wall because they're trying to climb out to get to some light. So that does sometimes result in slightly smaller leaves maybe than what they could produce, because they're putting kind of more energy into the stem and shooting out further to try and get out to some light. But it doesn't seem to be affecting our Philodendron glorious. That just keeps on producing more and more leaves, and they are very large. If I put my hand next to it, you see the size of these leaves. So this one is doing really well. It's quite happy here. We've got a little bit of damage to some of the leaves, but again, they are exposed here to some wind, which does affect them. So here is a very broad-leafed orchid. It's got no flowers on at the moment, but it's very wide leaves. So that's why this one here is kind of set back into the shade there. They really don't like too much sun, unlike those, if you look at the Vanda orchids that are up here, you'll see they have very narrow kind of pencil leaves, and they can tolerate a lot more sun than others. So a Staghorn Fern up here, this used to be around the front of the house. I moved it, and see, it doesn't look totally healthy. Although these fronds that are hanging down are doing fine. It dropped some old ones, and it's got some new shoots coming out the side there, but the actual kind of crown of it died off, and so I'm hoping a new crown will form. Not really sure why it happened. I've read that it's because it was overwatered. So if it's browning at the top there, it's overwatered. If it's browning at the tips, it's underwatered. So I have kind of toned down a lot the watering on it, and hopefully it'll bounce back. Along the bottom of the wall here, we've got some ferns on the ground. There's going to be some pots placed along here. The wall was producing quite a lot of water when the irrigation system's on, and it was all dripping down onto the floor, making a bit of a mess of the wood decking. So we'll put some pots there, and we'll put these ferns in. They like the water anyway, and that'll also help to then catch the water, give it to some practical use. And also as well, these aerial roots that are coming down from some of our philodendrons that are growing up here, like the Beate, they're going to have kind of then a ground to actually penetrate into, which is kind of what they would do in real life. They'd be up in a tree, they'd send down these hanging roots, and they would find somewhere in the ground to pick up some nutrients. So that's how our living wall here at the back is going. We've got more glorious coming out. So the problem that I found with the glorious compared to the gloriosum, obviously with the gloriosum compared to the glorious. The gloriosum is a crawler, and so obviously the crawling plants are a little tricky on the wall because they want to crawl, not climb. So they're looking to go to another pot. They want to jump from one pot to another, which makes them a little tricky, and so they don't really upsize because they can't expand. So that's something I would recommend, is definitely stick to climbing plants rather than the crawling plants if you are doing a living wall setup. Although they are surviving, but they're just not really thriving with larger leaves. In fact, the leaves seem to be getting smaller than anything else. We've got some more anthuriums hiding away behind there in the shade. And then we've got our gigas here, which is really thriving and doing well. And you can see it's producing quite some large leaves now. So this gigas is very happy here. This leaf got really messed up with the wind and the ferns. So the edges of these ferns are actually quite kind of rough on this particular type of fern, and it really chewed up the side of the plant. So I need to cut back some of those to make sure it doesn't damage the new leaves that are coming out. But as it gets higher up, there's fewer ferns up there, so it'll have a little bit more space. So there we go. That's our update of what's been going on in the garden so far. Those of you following along, you may be wondering how our Spiritus Sancti is doing. So here it is. It got repotted last week. The new leaf has come out. It is doing quite fine. That's the latest leaf. And you can see it's starting a little bit to get that bunny-shaped ears at the top. So obviously, those of you who know the Spiritus, you know it comes out with these bunny-shaped ears, these lobes at the tops of the leaves. So the young ones didn't have it, but as the leaves start getting bigger and the plant starts getting older, it will begin to start forming those lobes, which that's the first one there. Now there is another leaf coming out. We can see here. It got a little damage. I'm not really sure if something bit it. Some insect may have bitten it. I'm not really sure. But we've got another leaf coming out. So it has been producing leaves relatively quickly. I don't know if that is typical, because it's the first Spiritus Sancti that I've had. I don't know if it's typical or if it is just normal for a juvenile plant like this to be producing lots of leaves and upsizing. But then it will slow down as they get bigger. That's kind of what I expect. We did get one new plant to add to the collection, which is a Thai Constellation. So this is a Monstera Thai Constellation. I repotted it into a good mix. It had some root rot. The mix that it came in was not a good mix for a Monstera. I think it was a cutting that had been rooted and then for shipping it to me, they just put it into the cheapest potting mix they could. I didn't realize that. I didn't want to disturb it when it arrived, so I left it in that mix. And then luckily, I kind of decided to repot it just to something a little larger. And when I did that, I noticed the root rot. So we cut off all of the dead roots. We treated it with neem oil, and I've put it into a new mix. So this is from Leafy pH. That's their aroid mix. So pH, for those of you watching this abroad, that's not pH as in acidity, that is pH as in Philippines, as I'm located in the Philippines. So Leafy Philippines provided the mix that I use for that, and also as well in the repotting of the spiritus. So check out that video, link below, to see the repotting of the spiritus and that mix. But you can see the mix here is very airy, chunky. We've got bark, we've got leaves, we've got perlite. They have already treated it for like fungus and bacteria, and it's already treated as well, I think, with some fertilizer to help when you transplant a new leaf. So that's our update of our garden today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.